HARK, we are here. It is time for yet another episode of Star Wars Unlimited. It's the week after Christmas. For recording wise, it is the week of New Year's, so not a lot to go through, but we do have some previews. We will update one of the previous cores we saw because FFG messed with me, but that's okay. That's what happens when you make things based upon something that isn't complete, which has been my point the entire time, and obviously thinking I was safe-ish, I fell into the pitfall myself. But enough of that. We've got some really cool previews to go over, so let's get started with those. Our first previews come by way of nerdly.co.uk, website that covers a lot of different things. Link in the description below. We have 2 units and an event. There's some interesting stuff here. So let's start with this event. We have here Moment of Peace, a 1-cost Vigilance innate event. Give a shield token to a unit. It is a common, number 73 out of 252, and SOR. We have Yoda here, relaxing, doing his thing. Vigilance is the aspect of shields, so we have a card here that's usable by both heroism and villainy that can just straight up give a shield to a unit. It is a decent card for emergency protection if you know your opponent has something that's going to kill it within the next round and you need it to be on the board, but you have to measure or weigh whether giving the shield token to the unit is worth it rather than just doing whatever you need to do with the unit. The benefits are if the unit itself has a flat static effect that you want to keep, something like Wedge or Admiral Piet. If it's already exhausted and can't do anything, but you're ready to take the initiative on the next round to be able to allow it to do something, i.e. you play Moment of Peace, your opponent does the thing that damages the unit, getting rid of the shield token, you know they have nothing left, you take the initiative, so on and so forth. Other than that, this is like Keep Fighting or the Resource Compartment Upgrade, where you're expending an activation of tempo to do something that you might think is incredibly powerful, but might not be powerful overall. This is something that is designed to protect your units from other things. This will fit right into the Luke deck because Luke wants to be giving shields all over all the time anyway. And there's a couple of key cards in Luke, your leader, Luke Skywalker, the actual unit itself, the non-leader unit, a couple of other things that you're going to want to keep alive as long as possible to be able to do the extra damage. But even if you were to run something like Vader Vigilance, this could put a shield on your Vader that would allow him to survive an additional turn based upon things that are happening. It just depends on what you think is valuable to you and giving up the tempo of your round by putting a shield on a unit and then doing nothing in that same activation. This, however, is a very good limited card because there's not going to be a huge amount of access to shields in the limited environment. So by pulling one of these, if you're going to be running Vigilance, you can protect a unit from dying, and clearing units off the board is going to be relatively difficult in limited environments. Decent card, probably a 1 or 2 of in Constructed unless you really need those shields and you're very okay with slowing down your gameplay while potentially only moderately slowing down your opponent's gameplay. Next, we have an interestingly designed ground unit. This is Echo Base Defender. 3-cost Command Heroism ground units, 4 power, 3 health, Rebel Trooper, Sentinel. Common, 98 out of 252, SOR. Another really good limited unit because this is something that comes common. Command is going to be very popular in limited, I believe. I think both Leia and Tarkin are going to be very popular limited commanders if you pull them. In terms of what you can do with this in Constructed, this is pretty much going to trade for the vast majority of 4-cost and less units that are going to be coming at this thing because it is a Sentinel. And by having it have 4 power instead of 3 power and 3 health instead of 4 health, it's probably not going to survive, but it will do its job by helping get that clap back going on your opponent's units. This is one of those, you can drop this and on your next round, if it survives, use your Leia ability to be able to attack with it and attack with something else, making it so that you still get that benefit of it being a Sentinel on the board to attack, to deal damage back to something that's going to hit it unless it gets shot first or whatever, or your opponent has Saboteur. All those kinds of things. But it is a decent unit, especially for 3 cost. 3 cost 4 power is very valuable. Very, very valuable. And it being a trooper, it being a rebel, it being command, and it being heroism, it has a lot of mesh ability with decks that want to run any one of those things. So this is a great card. I anticipate seeing a lot of it, especially in decks that want that Sentinel, but want to be a little bit more aggressive with their units. Next, we have a unit that I've been looking forward to seeing, was pretty sure was going to be coming. However, it dropped the day I did a whole section of a video about this type of unit. And this unit is 7th Sister Implacable Inquisitor. 5 cost, aggression, villainy, ground units. 3 power, 6 health, Force Imperial Inquisitor. It has Saboteur. When this unit deals combat damage to an opponent's base, you may deal 3 damage to a ground unit that opponent controls. This is a rare number 133 out of 252 in SOR. Even though she's a 5 cost card, I believe completely enables the Grand Inquisitor as a relatively viable, maybe not competitive, but viable leader in the game. She has enough health to deal with taking the extra damage from Grand Inquisitor's effects. She does only have 3 power if you don't equip anything to her, so she is a target for keep fighting that I think is viable because you are able to do that extra damage to a ground unit your opponent controls once this unit hits a base, and it will always be able to hit a base unless something ridiculous happens because it has Saboteur. In terms of being included in the Force Core, however, I think this is 100% an auto 3-up include because at 5 cost, it's still within the mid game where 5th Brother is your early game, 7th Sister is your mid-game force unit that you get to drop. That opens up the ability of getting those extra attacks in. And if you're still able to utilize other effects, I think she actually works a lot better in Vader than Grand Inquisitor, but that's also because I just don't think Grand Inquisitor is that good of a leader. 7th Sister being equipped with the Fallen Lightsaber can actually end up doing a ton of damage to your opponent's base as long as your opponent isn't able to mitigate that damage in any way. Sending a 6 attack unit that's already dealing 1 damage to each thing on the board on attack, dealing the 6 damage to the base, and then dealing another 3 damage to a unit once you've completed the attack on that base is a value equation that not a lot of card combos can realistically get together. The only thing I could think of off the top of my head that can be as impactful as this card is Overwhelming Barrage. And Overwhelming Barrage, we already know, is a very underrated card. Not underrated, it's just there's a rating for cards and it is under that rate and it does way more than what it is supposed to realistically be able to do. 7th Sister, fantastic character. I think we'll probably see at least a Grand Inquisitor unit. I'm hoping at least. That way we can get another Force user. Maybe Grand Inquisitor can either be a 4 or a 6. That will allow us to have a continued cost curve as we continue with Force units for Force villainy. But honestly, this card really is making me reconsider what my first deck is going to be. I think most players are going to probably pick up Sabine right off the bat or some sort of Luke control. But I'm inching closer and closer to being that like Vader villainy aggressive. I'm just going to smash you with Force users as many times as I possibly can. Very interesting card. Very happy with it. Our next 2 previews come by way of TCGCast. Link to their YouTube video below. We have ourselves a space unit and we have ourselves an event. So let's talk about this space unit first. We have here the Pirated Starfighter, 2 cost, cunning only space unit, 2 power, 4 health. Underworld Vehicle Fighter. It has Raid 1, so +1 while attacking. When played, return a friendly non-leader unit to its owner's hand. It is an uncommon number 209 out of 252 in SOR. The idea behind this is to play this to have a beefier unit on the board at 2 cost. But also pull something back to your hand that either has its own when played effect or has something extra damage on it that you want to be able to clear out. Pirated Starfighter is unfortunately not a unit you are going to play round 1 because you must return a friendly non-leader unit to its owner's hand. Unless you have something else on the board, which you're not going to have round 1, it has to return itself, which is not great unless you can ambush it. And this is not worth an ECL trigger in any way, shape, or form. But if you have ground units that have when played effect, something like C-3PO or R2-D2, and you want that back to your hand if they have some damage on them, or just want the when played effect for a later round, that's a great way to do it. Pirated Starfighter is an interesting ship. I've heard this is from Star Wars Resistance. Unfortunately, that is one of the shows that I have not watched, and I really should because I hear lots of great things about it. But it is an interesting little ship. It is another Underworld ship, another Underworld keyworded ship. I'm excited to see what Underworld can do in the future, but I don't see this seeing a lot of play unless there's a very important when played trigger that requires the combo of this to be able to be used. Our next card is an interesting card. It's getting a lot of buzz, and we'll talk about why here in a second. We have here Force Throw, a 1-cost aggression force event. Choose a player. That player discards a card from their hand. Then, if you control a force unit, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the cost of the discarded card. This is an uncommon, number 167 in SOR. Force Throw can be a strong card. However, any combination of use of this card requires you to either be at your opponent's mercy or for you to go negative in terms of resources available to yourself. And here are the 2 examples. I play my 1-cost Force Throw, target my opponents. I have a force unit on the board. My opponent goes, cool, I have this 2-cost unit I don't need, I'm gonna discard that. You say, cool, now I deal that unit 2 damage. That unit does not die, mainly because there's probably not going to be a lot of situations where a unit has 2 health left or is only 2 health on the board. Your opponent is never going to choose the card unless they only have 1 card in hand that gives you the most benefit. This is a lot like I Am Your Father, where your opponent is going to choose the best effect for themselves, and any other opponent controls effects are very similar to that. Now, on the flip side, I have a force unit on the board. I have a handful of cards. I have Force Throw. I use my resource. I play Force Throw. I target myself. I am a player. I discard a card from my hand. I discard this big 8-cost Star Destroyer. Then I control a force unit. I deal 8 damage to a target unit. It is a good leader control or elimination card because it just says a unit equal to the cost of the discarded card. You could throw the Devastator for 10 damage. You can throw, let's say, the ATST for 6. Do something like that. But you are still losing another card in order to be able to do something like that. So while Force Throw is probably pretty decent against aggression decks that throw a lot of cards on the board and don't have too many cards left in their hand, so you're leaving them with less options, I think overall Force Throw is not that great, given your cost analysis opportunities are my opponent chooses this effect or I lose an additional card that I might need later. It has interesting options. It might be better in limited, but given that it's an uncommon, you're not going to see it as often in draft and sealed, especially sealed. So it really just all depends on how an individual player feels about this. This is not a card I would add to the core of a force deck, maybe as a sideboard in case specific situations call for it. But in terms of a main deck card, it's not there for me. That is not what I value this card at. Great art. Very interesting scene to be pulling stuff from when Vader just throws crap at Luke. But overall, I am not very high on this card. This is the part of the video where I would say our next preview comes by way of the Unlimited FFG Twitter account, but FFG is out of the office for the holiday week. And by the time I finish all my recording and editing and all the other stuff, if they do post something, it won't be included in this video. So with that, that's it, everybody. 5, previews of interesting variety. There's going to be a lot of different discussion as it pertains to things like Seventh Sister and Force Throw. Echo-Based Defender is a fun card that you just slot into your command deck to be able to do command deck shenanigans, and it'll be interesting to see how these things get together moving forward. As of recording, it is January 1st, so Happy New Year. Second, we are 2 months away from the pre-release of Star Wars Unlimited, and that's exciting. I'm excited. I know there's a bunch of things that need to happen before that. If that shows up, we need to get some tournament guidelines. We need to get the sealed rules. We need to get the draft rules. We need to get all kinds of different things that are going to be available for the ultimate continuation of Star Wars Unlimited. But I'm excited. I hope you all are excited. Let me know in the comments below what you are particularly waiting for as it comes to the release of the game and how many boxes you're going to buy on release. I'm already in for a case, as I've said before. I think I'm going to stick it with that. Try not to go too much further than that. Anything else I need to get, just grab as singles. But it'll be interesting to see how things move forward as it pertains to Star Wars Unlimited. So, like this video, like I said, comment below what you think you are excited for and what you want to see going forward into the release of Set 1 Spark of Rebellion. Subscribe to this channel. Follow me on all my social medias at RybackStun. And we'll see you in the next video, hopefully with some more previews. If not, we'll throw another core in or something. And with that, I will see you in the stars.